Why are you talking that loud when you're just sitting in a room?
This is how people talk.
No, it's not. All right, fine. I'm going to get mad anyway, so I'm going to talk really loud, okay?
Okay. We just got our intro.
Great.
Okay. Hey folks, it's Janek Gwizdala. It's the Janek Gwizdala podcast. We're going to reference 4 videos basically today, those being by Bertud, Neely, Sapko, and Beato. And I'm here with my wife. Say hi.
Bonjour.
Oh, yeah, okay. You want to tell people why you're here? To help me not get canceled? Was that the...
That was the original intent, and now I'm afraid that I'm getting us both canceled.
Right, okay, good.
But my lack of being on the internet will really help me in that case, so
Yes.
sorry.
Don't apologize. We should, sorry to me or sorry to the people?
No, sorry for you, because you're the one that...
Oh, I'm just
your
screwed now.
reputation matters.
Yeah, I'm just totally screwed now. Okay, so I've affectionately named this character Guacamole Tuna. I think you should all be, probably by the thumbnail and the title of this video, all be aware of what we're talking about here. We've both made copious notes.
It's true.
You were like, I'm not going to watch any of these videos, and then suddenly you dove right into it, and out came the book, and the pen was, smoke was coming off the pen. Yeah, I think if we say, at least my goal, before we get into our discussion, my goal with making any kind of response or video about this situation was, I was never going to make it because it just didn't apply. I wasn't involved. I wasn't the person that got stolen from, and I didn't need to put yet another 1001th video out there about it. But I think people have, like, literally everyone except maybe Beato for a half a second, literally everyone is missing the entire point, which is what we've been talking about a lot, which is like, the guy just sucks. He can't fucking play. Like, that's the bottom line. And nobody cared. I don't know if people heard it or they didn't hear it. I'm going to guess that the amount of people that collaborated with this guy falls somewhere on that spectrum of either they didn't hear it or they just didn't care and they wanted the engagement with someone who had a massive following. Mm-hmm. So the only goal I have with this video and this discussion is to put that point across. That maybe, like, ignore my opinion. My opinion doesn't matter. But perhaps at the end of this video or this discussion, you'll be armed with some better tools to ask better questions and be more critical of how you listen as a music fan along the way. And maybe situations like this will get a little more, maybe eradicated a little more in the future.
I think that's the issue in itself, is that so many people are making arguments. It made me a little upset. Adam Neely's entire video made me mad. I think that might have been kind of the point.
Okay.
But
well,
then,
he did say, keyboard warriors, get ready. My hot takes are hot.
Right. And then he called it a lukewarm defense. So he knew that he was putting out, like, pretty shabby arguments and that he was going to get destroyed, I think. But then Rick Beato said, this is the best video that has been made on this so far, and I totally agree with his final point. So the fact that the two people who essentially have the loudest voices are the ones saying the exact wrong thing is kind of driving me crazy. What was your original? Why did we start? I'm already getting, like, rage blindness.
Rage blindness, yeah. My original point, the fact that...
right. We're missing the point that that social media is not some kind of static, unchangeable thing that is happening to us. Right. And that's how everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
They're making all these arguments that, like, it's okay.
I'm handcuffed.
Yeah, and, like,
I have no choice.
Feel so bad for these content creators who are dealing with the pressure of social media to be perfect. And, like, that's actually human control. Right. We have the power to stop social media from being like that. Right.
I mean, I got to be the first one to put my hand up and say, number one, I hate myself for the fact that I engaged in it for so long, but I'm so happy that I saw that 2 years ago and was like, I'm done. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we have the choice. My career didn't suffer as a result. Right. It actually only got better.
Well, and we're in different lanes here because you got off Instagram, but you do still make a lot of you are still a content creator.
It's a really tough label. And I think it's an important one to differentiate. Some people are solely content creators.
Yes.
I think I will not be, I won't say I'm not a content creator because I do create some things that are content.
That's what I'm saying.
But I also make music.
Yes, but it's a facet of your career, whereas it is literally not a facet of mine. I stopped making Instagram videos more than 5 years ago.
Oh, right.
I don't post anymore.
Yeah.
I don't watch YouTube.
Right.
I can't get over the fact that, Neely's video is the first YouTube video longer than 6 minutes that I've watched maybe in my entire life. And in that fact, he wins.
Right.
And I'm on a podcast for the first time since 2020 talking about it because I'm so mad about it.
Right.
But he wins because he got
right.
money from my view.
Yeah.
We're talking about people are going to go check it out now.
Right.
It's just, and this was actually going to be my final point of the whole video, but I kind of can't predicate the rest of my argument without saying it.
Okay.
That in itself is why I don't like so many directions that society is going in right now, but especially things like social media.
Okay.
Just the fact that the winners are the ones who get the most clicks, which leads right into the whole point of music actually is 100% a competition.
Yeah.
And it's no more a competition than when you put it on social media.
Yeah.
Because you have actual numbers.
We should get into the specifics of the things I think we both reacted to individually about that video and the points being made.
Yeah.
The whole thing is, the premise of the video is like, is fake guitar okay? The history of it. Of Adam Neely's video, exactly. And some of the points he makes, and here's a montage, for instance, of other well-known YouTubers saying, music is not a competition, music is not a competition, like, duck, you saw that bit, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe the phrase should be, music shouldn't be a competition, but saying that it's not a competition is so far from reality. Like, the first thing I was like, well, what about the Van Cliburn piano competition with $100,000 first prize? The entire classical music world that's runs entirely on competitions. It's in the fucking name, competition, like piano competition, trumpet competitions, blah, 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 with better opportunities for performance, with management opportunities, with recognition, with literal cash prizes.
Right, but that's taking the competition element so literally.
Yes.
In Neely's video, when he gets into this, he gets to the point of, well, you could argue that capitalism makes everything a competition, but that's kind of no, that is exactly the argument. Everything that we do in our society, especially linked to social media, is 100% capitalism. Everyone is doing that. The problem is I don't know his actual name because you keep calling him Guacamole Tuna. It's not Giancarlo.
Let's just keep it Guacamole Tuna.
Guacamole.
This is Giacomo Turra.
Giacomo Turra.
Turra with two R's. Yeah.
Tuna. See, I can't get the tuna out. Yeah. Anyway, this guacamole guy, he did all of this to make money.
100%.
And just because he did it so egregiously and without shame doesn't mean that other people who are doing it with less obvious tactics aren't doing the same thing in essence.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say he's perhaps unique to a small group of people who are literally stealing and making illegal proceeds from selling the tabs.
Horrific.
But to be honest, that was the thing I had the least amount of problem with. Like, I'm sorry to, Jack Gardner and Alex Hutchins, all these people who made the solos, and he just totally ripped them off. Yeah, that totally sucks. Welcome to the internet. You know what I mean?
I don't think that that's less important. I think that there's so many facets of this, and that one is the one that everyone is rightfully very angry about.
Right.
And then the argument that all of the fake posturing on the internet is getting defended.
Yeah.
It's like, no, both things are bad.
Both things are bad, but to me, the fact that Guacamole Tuna can't play, as cannot literally tens of thousands of other people who have huge followings and make a significant amount of income as revenue as a result, cannot play. Nobody's talking about that.
I think it's all related to me. The fact that all these people he stole from can actually play.
Yes.
And are not as successful. It's all just the fabric of social media and how it is, and people saying that's just how social media is, deal with it. Like the guy who originally wrote that song didn't have some fancy lights in the back of his video, and
or a fancy thumbnail,
and he doesn't have a
title.
backwards hat on and like a freaking cactus in his window, means that he didn't get the views. But that is horrific. That shouldn't matter.
I mean, tell me about it.
It's infuriating.
If I want to destroy my channel, guess what I put on my YouTube channel? Music.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the least viewed, least interacted thing.
Right.
And I choose not to like zoom the camera in and out every bar and like put
and have 6 keyboards that you play in a circle.
In a circle, exactly, yeah. And I think, you know, drilling down into some of the points that Neely made for justification of, well, this has been done for an eternity. I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head, but the two that really stick out were Whitney Houston, the 91 Star Spangled Banner, and Led Zeppelin, the song remains the same name. I forget the name of the movie, but it was essentially the Madison Square Garden concert where they rebuilt it's famously known that they did it. They rebuilt the stage. Paul Jones cut his hair a week before they redid it at Shepperton Studios and had to wear a wig. Like, it's kind of tongue in cheek. And what's his name? Something Clifton, Derek Clifton. I forget the producer or the director's name. It was a directive of that guy that they go back and do it, regardless of any of those details. Neely referenced people who could really play.
Yeah.
Neely referenced exclusively undeniable innovators of their instrument genre, whatever you want to call it, and didn't really justify it from like 2010 onwards.
Right. Well, this I mean, God, there's so much.
Right.
There's so much. Let's start from where you started that, which is bringing up the fact that hundreds of years of human experience have already done this. I am never a fan of the argument that this is the way we've always done it, and I just need to gesture slightly to our current state of society to prove that point.
Right.
Do we really want to say that the past 100 years of human behavior has been good choices?
Right.
Are we not trying to move society into better places and improve human intelligence and ability?
Right. I mean, obviously, audiences in that sense are in a decline in terms of their intelligence, it feels like.
It's not, it feels like it just is. We're headed back. Gosh, this could get really dark. We don't need to go all the way. But basically, you can't make your whole argument on the fact that this has always been done.
Right.
Secondly, it's so funny that he uses Singing in the Rain as his main plot point, because that movie basically defined my entire childhood. I've seen it so many times. And if you're going to use the plot twist of that movie to defend this whole thing, Lena, who is the fake actress in the front, is the villain of the story.
Right.
And Kathy is the underdog protagonist. The whole movie ends with Kathy becoming famous because she's actually the talented one.
Yeah.
In this whole situation with, I really...
Guacamole Tuna. Let's just stay with it. We're going to have merch.
I'm going to call him John Carlo. I feel like that's worse. He is Lena.
Yeah.
And the Kathys are not getting any recognition.
Yes.
The end of the movie of Singing in the Rain never happens.
Right. He just marches off into the sunset with
so
no consequence.
That okay?
Right.
So yes, of course. And yeah, Debbie Reynolds was in turn had a ghost singer on that movie. That doesn't make... Oh, God, there's so many facets to this. That has never been okay.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that, let's talk about Emma Watson getting absolutely destroyed for her auto-tune in Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
And everyone was saying they should have just had another singer come in. But everyone would have known that.
Right.
Because we have always known that as a society. The difference with this is it's not exposed.
Right.
And it's not you're not getting another person. It would be so different if John Luca had his...
This guy's going to have 20 names by the end of this episode.
If he was miming along to those other guys playing.
Yeah.
That's even a different level of this. It's just not the same. This is purely fake.
Yeah.
It's purely fake. And it's...
And there was the argument, like Beato was talking about, like everything you've ever heard in a stadium is playback. I'm like, well, for certain things, yes. The Super Bowl, classically, everyone knows it's pre-recorded, but it is the band. You know, when James and those guys did it for, like, we have first-hand knowledge of this because we have friends that have played the Super Bowl, like, in many different scenarios and setups, from behind the scenes, on the stage.
Like, you and I have also played very large
Oh my God, we both played
ourselves.
stadiums and the whole bit. You know, we know how that works. And that was the point I was getting to. Famously, I feel like that's, and we talked about this a bit last night, you kind of didn't agree with me a little bit, but it's a good way to get into the conversation, I think. Okay. I was saying, like, that is more, I feel like, a television producer's directive, more so than it is the way it has to be for musicians. You know what I mean? You made the point of, sometimes it is the managers and the producers and the agents
and the artists
and
themselves,
the artists
because
themselves.
They want to come off as
perfect.
Yes,
and they want and for me, I think the TV producer side, whoever's wearing that hat, doesn't necessarily have the skill set in the background to know technically what it is from the guitar player or the singer's standpoint. They just know what makes good TV, and what makes good TV is getting Whitney Houston in the studio to pre-record that Star Spangled Banner and it running on a grid, basically, to a click.
Sure.
You know, like, so they know they're getting perfection. They lower their risk ceiling, essentially. I have no problem with that. You know, I can still watch that Whitney Houston and cry because it's fucking one of the greatest performances of that song ever.
Right.
But there's also the thing, like you said, I've played in literal stadiums before, and we play with pop artists who have tracks. I've played live.
Yeah.
So have the drums. So's everyone that's on the stage has played live like 99% of the time. Sure, like Beato talked about, he's made backing tracks for artists, but I think, and I would love to have the conversation with these people. That would be fascinating to have it in real time and go back and forth rather than speculating. But when he says that, I think he's just made backing tracks like we've experienced as musicians with pop artists that are 20% of the playback.
Right.
They're not an MP3, a stereo file that's the entire music that the band just mimes to.
Right.
It's just a little bit of playback where you can't have 20 singers on stage, but you'd love the chorus to sound like it does on the album. You know?
Well, you really have to get to the core of the purpose of the performance for me.
Okay.
When you are at the Super Bowl, all of America presumably is tuning in. It's very high stakes. It's live TV. It's happening and then it's over.
Yeah.
And people are going to watch it over and over and criticize it for the rest of time.
Yeah.
When you are in the middle of a football stadium this is what I was saying, on 100 yards of grass, the acoustics are not great.
Oh, horrendous.
They're not meant, a giant concert is not meant for that venue. It is not a music venue inherently. So much can go wrong, and it's actually set up for ideally horrendous sound.
Right.
So yes, there's a lot of things that you have to account for, and playback and miming makes so much sense in those situations. Yes.
But would you say they are the minority situations compared to the rest of concert touring?
Yes.
Right, okay.
And the difference between the fact that it is a musical performance in the middle of a football game.
Right.
It is not a concert that people have paid money specifically to see that music. Yeah. And yes, so much, like when you think of, I don't know why Katy Perry immediately comes to mind, but artists like that, where a lot of it is canned and a lot of the musicians are miming along. There are millions of people going to these concerts. And yes, they should have live musicians. I'm not defending them at all.
Right.
But the difference between that venue and someone at home,
Guacamole Tuna's front room,
in their bedroom, not just him, everyone. The social media as a whole.
Yes, bedroom musician.
It is literally, you're in your house. Yeah. Sometimes your bed is behind you.
Most of the time, actually.
Yes, there's nothing more inherently vulnerable and honest than that setting. Mm-hmm. So something that I'm sorry, Adam Neely, I know we've never met, or maybe we have. I don't remember.
I don't think you have. I haven't.
Oh, really?
I mean, he's been on the channel. I interviewed him. He seems like a very nice guy, actually, but we've never actually met in person.
Right.
Also, we should say this is not like meant to be a takedown or a FU You know what I mean? Well, shit, you
No,
give me that.
I just
No.
I don't speak YouTube lingo, so I'm just giving my opinion here. I think that so many of his arguments, something I respect about him is how much time he takes to get video footage and just the knowledge.
Yeah, people
is
should
incredible.
go check out the video. It's like 52 minutes of like seriously hard work.
I'm not going to go that far.
Okay.
However, maybe some of his other videos, like I think just what he does in general with the amount of research he does is really cool.
Yeah, totally.
However, when you are using that much research to prop up arguments that can be slapped down in half a second, like it's not like I watched that video and then sat for hours to really let his arguments sink in. And
it was
that's
instant.
how, it's like immediately
Instant,
it can all be blown down.
Yeah.
Like your card tower's gone.
Yeah.
So something that he brought up was this whole, what does he call it? What is it? The spectrum of permissibility. I really loved.
That was from somebody else.
Yes, that is someone else's concept, but he uses it to discuss hip hop and jazz and all of these other things. So when you take that argument that he made and apply it to, and then he goes into this whole thing about genres and how it's really important to like microscopically view and analyze a genre. So let's do that with the bedroom musician.
Okay.
Let's come up with the spectrum of permissibility for bedroom musician and what the core genre is. Mm-hmm. The core genre is I am in my house, in my boxers, practicing guitar.
Yeah.
That's the setup.
Yeah.
That is what you're
selling.
Yeah. That's what
promoting.
You are. And actually, the more aesthetically, what's that word? The people on the internet are going to know what I mean.
I have no. I'm way too old for these.
Hygge. It's that like Swedish. Oh God, now I'm going to get killed.
Hygge or something.
Yes, it's like it's an aesthetic that is comforting and comfortable. Okay. It's like when you look at like if you picture like a down comforter.
Yes.
With like a fire going, like that's like
the 2025 version of rose tinted.
Not really.
Soft. No, okay.
No.
Sorry. See,
anyway,
I'm a real boomer here.
So that is essentially like the more of that you have in your video, usually like natural light, there's sunlight, there's like all these visuals that we attach to honesty, to truth, to there's nothing fake about this. Uh-huh. And that is clearly what you're selling. Uh-huh. And then everything about it is fake.
Bullshit, yeah.
You can actually criticize that versus Taylor Swift in 3,000 sequins in the middle of a stadium in front of 300,000 people with her glittery microphone. It's not the same.
Absolutely.
It is not the same.
That was the thing that bothered me the most. Like, you cannot take Whitney Houston and Singing in the Rain, all these things, and compare it to Instagram.
You just really cannot. You cannot. It's not even an argument. Those things are in separate universes. Yeah. And Adam Neely also discusses, and maybe it was Rick Beato too, the spectacle of music. Like, people watch music to experience a spectacle.
Okay.
An Instagram video is not a spectacle.
Right. Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm not saying it's okay even that giant pop artists have a band behind them that's miming. I think that that's sad. But
it's also not that common. Like, the people who are there on the stage are actually playing.
For the
There's
most part,
a ton of tracks on top of it because of the genre, because of the style of music needs an 808 that is not coming from a DW 22-inch kick drum.
Right. So that's exactly it. The spectacle is preventing the type of music that you want to emote.
Yes.
Because of the spectacle itself.
Yes.
When you're in your bedroom and you are showing a Moog and you're showing yourself playing that Moog, the only spectacle is your fingers moving on the keyboard.
Right.
There is no reason that anything about that should be fake. And, this gets back into, I'm so sorry, what's the Danny
Sapko.
Sapko.
Yeah. Almost the originator of this, at least the exposer.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And his, for the record, I don't know how you all feel about this guy. I think he's freaking hilarious.
Oh, he's amazing.
I agree with basically everything he says. But the only thing that I had a little point of contention with was where he says, I can't hate on other content creators for pre-recording my performances because I do that too.
Okay. Sometimes, rarely.
Sometimes.
But yeah.
And this gets back to the thing for me of the intent of your performance.
Yeah.
I also did this, for the record. I would pre-record myself. I think I have 3 videos total on the internet, on my Instagram, of me playing along to a track where I'm like looking into the camera. I tried the Instagram thing for half a second, and I immediately was like, nope, I'm out. Can't do this. It's not me.
I didn't know this. You did this.
I mean, you've seen these videos.
Have I?
Yeah, I did a salsa one.
Remember? I remember. This is a long time ago.
Literally 7 or 8 years ago.
I do remember that, yeah.
So I pre-recorded that. I did not comp my take. I did not
it was one take.
I did not do any of that.
Right.
I took multiple takes until I got and I was trying out different stuff.
Yeah.
I was trying out the licks. Another huge issue is that I don't know anything about like video editing. I don't have hard drives that I can take. Like maybe I could have videoed all of those takes, but then I would have like a 60-minute long video of me practicing. And that wasn't the intent of that video. I just wanted to put out a little clip of like, here's my best work.
Yeah.
And he talks about the spectrum of permissibility.
Yes.
You can apply this to so many different things. Another issue, sorry, I'm kind of dominating this podcast. Another issue with all of this is that the second you start making these arguments to women, they crumble. They completely disintegrate because you can immediately, like Neely likens it to sports and juicing.
Cal ripped in. Oh, yes. The
baseball specifically.
Yeah.
I was also I was also a
Sammy
baseball fan. I was also crushed when all of this came out.
Yeah.
But for women, it is so much more of a 1-for-1 with social media because we are battling with Facetune and the Face app and these body changing things where you
just pure aesthetics, right?
It's purely fake.
Fake aesthetics, but that's
And as a woman, every single day, regardless of social media, every single day, I'm confronted with the fact that men don't have to wear makeup.
Okay.
Men don't do their hair. Societally,
I probably should once in a while.
Do you know how long it took me to do this?
Unfortunately, I do.
Yeah. And this, when I start talking about this, it feels so, like we've talked about this so many times, but it doesn't, when you're a woman, it doesn't go away.
Right.
Like, yes, these arguments, like we've talked about this so often, it doesn't change anything.
Right.
And I don't want that to apply. Like Neely says in his video, is there really any evidence that doing this is bringing down people's self-esteem? We really don't have any evidence of that. I was like,
I don't remember that.
It is so 1-for-1.
Yeah.
To women on social media.
Yeah.
You cannot, we have so much evidence saying that this is not healthy.
And I think
what are you talking about?
And I think there's been that I have heard comments to that effect of like, it's that unrealistic goal that people are setting, and younger people are being influenced like, damn, how do I do that?
Right.
There was something, and I wish I could remember whose video. There are so many of them now. It is impossible, and I'm sorry, and I apologize. If somebody knows where this thing came from, please put it in the comments below. Someone was saying about, I'm going to forget who it was, but where is Guthrie going? Someone listened to a piece of guitar playing and didn't realize that someone had played a loop and then overdubbed.
Yeah.
And they learned to play both parts.
It was Jeff Beck. That's
Jeff Beck.
Right.
There you
but
go.
then he uses Garska. He uses Matt Garska as the modern version, and how Neely thinks
that's right. The evenness.
Yes.
And how he practiced being metronomic.
He didn't know that it was programmed drums.
Right.
So, and then there's the famous, and this is where my brain loses itself.
Okay.
There's the famous version of that with jazz piano and the stride.
With like
Who
Art
was
Tatum.
that? It was, yes. And he was
yeah.
blind.
I don't know actually, but.
I can't remember. Anyway, it was the same. He didn't realize that there were 2 people at the piano.
Oh, so he learned
from
both
this
parts.
recording. So he learned all the parts. This has been a famed thing for many years.
Right.
That is not the common experience. That's not the common outcome of this.
But there's something to take from that again, nobody talked about. The actual value in that is that it promoted something original. And somebody had to do a lot of work.
Yes. Someone did a lot of work.
I'll never forget my good friend Steve Wolf. He's been on the podcast. You can go listen to the interview. It's in the archives, talking about listening to Billy Cobham, I think it was, as a drummer, and listening.
Yeah.
No YouTube, nothing. We're talking like early 90s or late 80s or something, and listening and being like, could not figure out the sticking. And finally figured it out. Then he went to see Billy Cobham live, and it was nothing like he had figured out. But he went away and has this lifelong ability to do this thing that he figured out from an album.
Exactly.
Because he did the work and he used his fucking ears.
Right.
And nobody uses their ears. I really want to get to the story that Charles Berthoud told about Guacamole Tuna, about doing this collaboration.
Wait, I'm not done with this point yet.
Sorry. We'll get there. Don't worry, folks.
That argument that when you put something fake out and someone else might become an incredible musician because
they were saying it was a good thing.
They were saying it's a good thing.
Right.
However, you completely undermine that argument when you spend 10 minutes of your video showing people how to fake the evidence that their video is real.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
You can't, I likened it to, back to the woman argument.
Yeah.
You show a girl with an eating disorder how to vomit, how to edit her videos,
how to edit the video,
and telling her it's okay because everyone else does it. And social media, the pressure of social media means that this is something we just have to do because we have no choice in the direction of humanity. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
You don't get to do that. You're ripping people down.
Yeah.
You're making them feel like crap about themselves. And it's all not okay. I could just scream about it for hours.
Well, let's not scream, but I do want to talk about the ears and about like GT. Let's shorten it to GT. Came across my desk like early doors, 2000, beginning of the pandemic. Everyone was sending everyone, oh, check out this, check out that. 3 seconds, I was like, this guy can't play. That is sped up. Don't darken my door with this bullshit again. It took less than 15 seconds for me to write this guy off as an absolute fraud. Fast forward to today, and he's got 750,000 followers. So he's pulled the wool over so many, layperson's ears, as regular audience members who are not musicians. But the laundry list of collaborators he has managed to hoodwink into working with him is flabbergasting. And Charles Berthoud made a video like, hey guys, think maybe I can weigh in because I have some experience. I've been through this before. And I think Rick falls into this category as well, maybe more so than anyone, because I haven't really heard, like Rick's had the biggest of the big interviews from Meldau to Keith Jarrett to Sting to literally everyone, like unbelievable interviews on his channel. Haven't heard of him being like, yeah, I got this cat in and they weren't really up to snuff and I didn't put it out. This is the first time I've heard that. Mm-hmm. Like the vetting process, not that you need to vet Pat Metheny, but the vetting process seems to have been pretty solid to this point. But even the guy in his 60s who's been in the industry for 40 years and produced massive records and has interacted with all these people, GT managed to make it through the pearly gates into the hallowed grounds of Rick's studio before Rick was like, oh shit, the guy can't play.
Yeah.
Charles Berthoud ate shit and lost a bunch of money because this idiot bailed on him for a massive video shoot for a collaboration, but then still rescheduled it and did the video anyway.
Yeah.
Like, where are the ears? The ears and the self-respect. If somebody screws me like that, you delete their number. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. Like, how desperate are people for the clicks and the views and the follows?
Ridiculously. That's not even a...
I'm just saying, people aren't talking about that.
Yeah.
People aren't saying that all of these people who collaborated with this guy on some level appear to be desperate for the exposure because the stories they are now telling are immediate grounds for dismissal. Immediate. Not, I'll give him a second. No, immediate. You fuck me over, you're done. Like, I'm a little bit extreme on that end because I know what I like and I have kind of a short fuse for it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, don't look so shocked. To the point where I've been on the road and contemplated handing someone a boarding pass at the end of a gig. Like, you fucked up so badly, you are absolutely done and you're going home. And I just listened to these stories in complete shock and amazement that they entertained this guy
Right,
for
but that's
so long.
that is the issue with social media. It makes all of that irrelevant because they do just want the clicks. And they do just want the exposure and the engagement and the cross-platform whatever. That's
So why wouldn't any of these people talk about that? Now, why wouldn't they highlight that, which to me is a way bigger problem than a lot of the other stuff?
because of exactly what we said. They've accepted social media as this thing that we can't change.
Okay.
It's just this thing that is happening to us.
Like they have bought into the like the whole thing of like, if it's free, you are the product, the platform isn't the product. You know what I mean? Like people aren't even thinking about that anymore. They're so deep into it. They've accepted that they're employees of Facebook essentially now for all eternity, you know?
Really of YouTube.
But I think YouTube is a completely different thing. I mean, I think that's why I managed to justify doing it for myself, because YouTube is a search engine more so than it is a social media platform. You know what I mean? Try finding something on Instagram or TikTok. Impossible. If you didn't see it the week it came out or bookmark it,
I think it has
it's gone.
a different methodology.
I'll be the first to admit that there's still the clickbait titles, the thumbnails. There are certain things you have to. There is
wild.
Right. But we go back to choices, right? Everyone can make a choice about social media.
Right.
Everyone can make a choice about YouTube. I mean, with the exception of maybe today where I'm going to put a crazy thumbnail on and title.
Do you have to?
I don't know. I'm still debating it.
Okay.
You guys will see, I guess, when this comes out, whether I chose
just
to or
for the
not.
record, and again, it doesn't affect me because I have removed myself from the game. Whatever dumb thing he puts in the title does not reflect my choices. That's all I have to say.
Absolute disclaimer. I would say, I wrote that you have so many notes. I have so many notes as well. I know we haven't even got to half the things we wanted to talk about yet.
I actually did. I did pretty good.
You did good. Wow. Are we fucking nailing this in no time at all? There was a point at or a statement at the end of Beato's video where he says, you know, he poses the question, can GT come back from this? Can there be some kind of redemption? And he says, sure, go away. Like I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but he says, sure, go away. Go on go on Instagram, which is your platform to the followers, make an apology that's genuine. Say you fucked up. You won't do any of this shit again. And this is the bit that killed me. How do your ears tell you this is possible? He says, go away, come back with some great music and some great playing. I mean, God bless you, Rick. If you have that much faith in this idiot to suddenly I don't know what's your, that's it. There's so many questions I would just love to ask him. Like, what's your time frame? Are you thinking 6 months or 5 years?
I don't think you're reading really far into something that I think he just said to be like this benevolent God character that he's made for himself on the internet.
I understand that, but do you know how much weight that carries with 5 million subscribers?
Yeah, but
people believe that. If Rick says, yeah, this guy can make a comeback, people are like, oh yeah, cool. And come 6 months when he puts out some more bullshit, people are more likely to accept it with Rick having said that than an actual, like a realistic critique of it. Like, the guy can't play. He's 5 years from being able to make it from one end of a gig to another without sucking. 5 years, absolute minimum, no question. Like,
well, what shocks me, I mean, there's so much to read into that guy. I am of the optimistic view that people shouldn't be canceled forever. I don't, unless they do something horrific to humanity.
Yes.
I think
agree.
that, yes, maybe this guy can come back in some other form. Maybe he'll get really good at cooking and he'll do that. You never know. But what really fascinates me is that this guy has spent so long learning how to fake other people's playing.
Yeah.
And he never actually got good.
Right.
That's what blows.
There was no residual.
My mind.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching these videos of him and I'm like, I probably couldn't even fake doing that well, like this crazy triple slap technique or whatever. I couldn't make that look believable because I've never shed that thing.
Right.
but he's shedding it over and over to make this video that looks really believable.
Right.
How does none of that rub off on you?
Absolutely.
You're actually...
Well, because of what you said, the intent. The intent was never for it to rub off.
Right.
The intent was never to do the work. All these Instagram clowns, they want the lifestyle and image and look of actually someone more from the pop world and the fancy clothes and the cars and the sunglasses and all that shit, like an Ariana Grande or a Chappell Roan. So they want that level of image.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something we should definitely talk about going into the genre thing as well. They want that image, but somehow they've arrived at this place from I hate using the word jazz, but from some sort of jazzy soul
improvisational,
something that involves improvisation, because that's what's cool. They've arrived at it from that direction. They can't write a song or sing or do anything that's going to give them pop stardom. They also know that pop stardom is a 1 in a bajillion chance of happening. So that's off the table. But they can fake this jazz bullshit enough to get a massive following and sell concert tickets, get signature instruments. Like the guy was making a lot of money. And, you watch Danny Sapko's video because it really chronicles the shitty things he did of like getting free gear and selling it and all that kind of stuff, not following through on agreements. But it's also amazing to me. We talked about Whitney and Zeppelin being compared to Instagram. What about the fact that almost every single example, with the exception, I guess, of Rick when he talked about Wes Montgomery, being on a live TV show, which I actually pulled some things up for that. They're global popular music. Nobody made the example of a jazz artist or an improvising artist really and compared it to what these people are trying to be on Instagram.
Right.
And I think people have realized how hard it is to improvise and to do the work and have a sound and have time and have original thoughts. They've realized, oh fuck, that might be harder than becoming a pop star in their mind. You know what I mean? That really bothers me. The intent is never to do the work. It's all about the goal and not about the process.
Right.
And exactly what you just said, they are clueless about the process because nothing in the process, even of faking it, rubbed off.
But I think that's what inherently makes me so mad about, you know me, I kind of get like justice warrior about things that I think are really unfair. And the ironic twist in this that drives me so crazy is that the bedroom musician is born of the idea that you are shedding in your bedroom.
Right. Actually doing the work.
Literally. It all stems from the entire concept of this is what
gets you there.
This is what Jeff Beck would look like in his bedroom.
Yeah.
Fucking shit up.
Yeah.
I've tried not to cuss this whole podcast,
right.
but this is what it looks like to do the work.
Right.
And then you're faking that?
Yes.
Like there's actually a difference when John Carlo does his videos, and like anyone, when you do videos when you're like at the beach with your guitar and there's a cable plugged in that is clearly like off into the ocean somewhere. I don't mind that that's fake because it's so clearly fake.
Yeah.
Whatever. Make your little, and this goes to the historic fact of music videos.
Yeah.
That's it's spectacle.
MTV.
It is spectacle.
Yeah.
I don't look at Nirvana in a swimming pool and think that they're playing guitar. Like it is inherently known that that's probably not real.
No shit.
I don't mind when people do that. I still don't love, like everyone's saying, I don't love the sound of it being fake, and I don't really get why they're doing that for Instagram. But when they're not doing that, when they're in a studio in their house, and it's supposed to be like, look inside my life at how the sausage is made, and you are making the sausage look like a prime steak. That is not healthy as a concept for people and young people to look at and think that that's how they need to be.
Right.
And it makes you self-conscious of how shitty you sound when you practice, that's the whole thing. No one is sharing that you sound really bad sometimes. I mean, you just saw me, I hate practicing. I spent 2 weeks shedding this thing.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me. And I hate practicing, partly because I hate hearing how bad, like, you know, there's the expectation of yourself and where you actually are.
Yeah,
and that
real
distance
versus feel. Yeah.
is horrendous.
Yeah.
But I had to face that because I had this gig that I cared about and I wanted it to be good. And what I sound like now compared to what I sounded like at the beginning is night and day.
Right.
And if you don't experience that process,
Yeah.
music is done.
Yeah.
What is the point?
It's all over.
What is the point of expression?
It's also pretty amazing that when you reference someone like Nirvana, for instance, or anyone that went in the studio and made original music, and like back in the day, I mean, like pre-2000, let's say, or maybe pre-2005, before records weren't a thing anymore, people would like do concert tours and TV appearances to promote the record, to sell the record.
Right.
That's where they would.
Yeah.
Right. Now they make the records for free essentially and get them streamed as much as possible to promote the tour.
Right. Exactly.
And that's a total 180.
Well, and
in the
again,
industry.
that is inherently so deceptive because you are selling people this thing that isn't real.
Well, that's exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
Like people like Guacamole Tuna have major tours. Like he has a US tour which got postponed because it was meant to be now in April and May, but this came out but instead of canceling it, people were like, "Oh, fuck this guy." They just put it back 6 months. Like, oh,
He's waiting for it to.
He's waiting for it to die down.
Totally.
You know, I want to put a video out like the day before his tour starts. I think everyone should.
I mean,
you know, but whatever. That's mean, but that's the mentality.
Right.
Like he's selling concert tickets on based on a lie.
And that's not in any way unique to him.
No,
that
not
is
at all.
Instagram as a whole. And
Yes.
Adam Neely, like back to this competition thing, Adam Neely mentions the amount of people now, and it's happened to me because of those 3 videos that I put on the internet.
Yeah.
I got hired for major gigs.
Right.
Major gigs because I put that on the internet.
Yeah.
Thank God it was actually my playing and not some quantized thing. But that's not the case for most of the people on Instagram who have thousands upon thousands of followers and are getting massive gigs.
Huge gigs.
It is a competition.
Yeah.
That is unfair.
Yeah.
And they are not getting fired. And what that does
some of them are, which is good to see, but one of the sadder things is that there are big bands, and I wish I could name names right now, but I don't think I'm ready to do that.
Okay.
But there is like I'm thinking of a couple of people in particular who have got massive gigs that are terrible, but are lauded as the absolute bollocks.
Absolutely.
And the bands that they've been hired by know they can't play, but their following, we're talking like
That's
750,000, 1 million followers, does something for this band of dudes 10, 15 years older than me even.
Yep.
And they're trying to plug back into the new audience so they get the kid.
That's what I mean by not getting fired.
Right.
There's people who are playing so bad and their engagement doesn't prop up the band, but there's plenty of instances where the opposite is true.
Yeah.
And that is tragic.
Yeah, we haven't played any music on this, but I did pull up a couple of things just because we talked about the situations under which you might be miming. You know, famously, there was a show called Top of the Pops in the UK back in the day, which is a chart show, and artists would go on there and be there physically present, but it was completely mimed, you know, but that was more to do with the limitations of the studio. It was just a box with no equipment in it. I've done Letterman and Leno and all those things a bunch of times. I wanted to explain a little bit that not everyone can be the David Letterman show with a crew of 90 people and like fully, it's basically going to a recording session.
Right.
But even then we took tracks, despite having a horn section and a 4-piece band and backing vocals. We had some strings in the tracks and did it live.
Right.
But none of us were miming. I want to pull up.
Oh, Lord.
Quite literally. This little thing. What you're hearing is Kanye West's opera Nebuchadnezzar at the Hollywood Bowl, 5 days after my birthday in 2019, and hers truly was playing bass on that.
I was indeed. Actually, on the stage, not pre-recorded.
Not pre-recorded, but that's what I'm saying.
Right
We're talking about a massive venue. Hollywood Bowl is 20-something thousand people. We're talking about one of the most complicated musical setups perhaps ever. I mean, I'm just when you think about the amount of people that were on the stage, and the chorus alone was 200 people or something.
Yeah, I forgot how massive.
Never mind the orchestra and the band, like
full orchestra, legitimately full orchestra.
Yes. So I just wanted to pull that up. Like, number one, my wife here, Chelsea, is never going to tell you that she did any of this shit. Like, I have to have...
Well, I'm not, let's be clear, I'm not both because I don't like to be that person, but also, please don't stop telling people I played with Kanye West, for the love of God. That guy is canceled.
That's maybe not, But I have to have props here to show you guys, like, what she does. It's not bullshit. All the things we're talking about here, the reason I love talking to my wife and having her on the podcast and having discussions like this is because it's coming from a place of great legitimacy and experience on almost every single level of the music industry that you could imagine. From the TV studio, where you were the musical director for a late night show, through your producing and writing and arranging and production with Disney now, to things like Mr. West, whose name we shan't mention anymore. But we're talking about the size of gig where there was no playback. You know, some of the most complicated shit there is. You know, even I pulled up a silly thing from, because I was trying to think to myself, where have I mimed? And I know I'm trying to picture little TV studios that don't have any equipment, but even in Oslo, we managed to go in here and record. They rolled a piano in, and we actually played real music. No playback on the vocal, no playback, no tracks, no nothing. Me playing guitar, piano player, and Gemma, and that's like totally legit and live and not mimed. And so even on some of the smaller things, people still not miming, you know. And some of the things I think about that you've done, like the Beyonce thing for the Kobe Bryant, that just stuck out to me yesterday when we were talking about it, and you were like, yeah, actually I was kind of amazed that wasn't playback,
right?
You know.
Yeah, we were 100% live with Beyonce
in the center of the Staples Center, which is, for those who don't know it, it's the big basketball arena in downtown Los Angeles.
It's also called Crypto now, but anyway.
She'll always be Staples Center.
Yes.
And it was for the Kobe Bryant passed away, his memorial. Beyonce, like, it doesn't get a lot bigger than that. A sort of Super Bowl level event in terms of the reach that it had because of how many fans around the world Kobe had, and the fact that it was Beyonce, potentially the number one artist in the world at the time. And there you were, 100% live. Yeah. Not a small band either.
No.
5 strings.
Yeah.
Vocals, full rhythm section, even percussion as well, maybe. I don't remember.
I can't
Guitars,
remember.
bass drum, like the full Monty. And no miming.
No tracks.
No tracks.
Yep.
No even tracks.
No tracks.
No live
Nothing,
band plus tracks, just like real live music. So I just want to highlight that it can be done. And not only can it be done, it is done more often than perhaps some of these people that are commenting like Neely and Beato give it credit for.
The issue is that maybe it's still done commonly now, but if we continue to put out videos that teach people how to fake being a good musician,
right, that
will no longer be the case. You will never see live musicians ever again.
Just because there won't be any. Maybe.
That's 100% correct. And
right.
Also, this just brings up the fact, now that I'm on the more producing side of things,
yes,
I'm in sessions all the time with literally the best musicians of Los Angeles.
In the world. The laundry list of studio musicians is ridiculous.
And the reason that they are hired is to get something right the first time.
Yes.
They're doing what these Instagram videos are faking.
Yes.
For real.
In real time, the first time, before they're like, sorry, Nathan East, I got to go. I've got another 3 sessions today.
Right.
You know?
And I have seen those people stop getting called because they aren't performing to that level anymore.
Right.
Or they were given a chance and they folded.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And the fact
there are consequences is what you're saying.
There are massive
yes.
competition,
yes.
capitalism consequences. You cannot, it's infuriating. And the fact that you think that like a lukewarm defense of this is in any way morally permissible is infuriating.
Or useful.
I mean, it's useful to some people for the wrong...
To defend themselves.
Yeah, and
against,
to show people how to do it more.
Yeah.
That's infuriating.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like the worst person to get mad about this because I clearly don't agree with the majority of the world because I'm not on that anymore. I don't consume this content. I refuse to consume it because of how it makes me feel.
Right, but that's what makes you the perfect person to talk about this, because you're not in that world. You're in the fucking real world.
Right.
Well, let's say what's left of it. Because the real world is starting to be that. I think that's the thing that we're both quite upset about.
I just need everyone to know that I don't know anything about this. I had never heard of this John Luca guy before this. And I don't know if I tried to talk about the bass Danny guy, I would get the numbers wrong at the end of his thing. I don't know anything about social media or YouTube music.
Yeah.
And there is so much music happening outside of that.
Right.
So if any of you would like to join us with the Jedi,
right.
please leave the dark side behind. Yeah. It is so toxic. I have never been a better musician than when I got off Instagram. Right. I am such a better bass player now than I was even 5 years ago.
Right.
And bass hasn't been my main thing for that whole time. But I am such a better bass player now because I'm listening to real music again. I'm in the studio. I'm in situations where it matters how good I sound the first time.
Yeah.
And can't really say I'm practicing. I'm practicing more than I did. There's that.
It's true. Okay. I think we're going to have to leave it there.
I have to go get my bad eyes checked.
You have to go get your bad eyes checked. We're all getting old. Yeah, I know I've forgotten some things, but there'll be a follow-up. Get in the comments. That's the most important thing. Have the conversation about it.
I would love to know what people have. I hate the get in the comments and subscribe, but I know you have to do that. But I truly want to see.
No, I only do it because I genuinely and here's the thing I do now. I don't know if I've been doing this lately. I got it from some like credit card reviewer guy. It's weird, but I think it's kind of fun and people have been responding to it. Let's put I'm going to put my finger right there. Let's put this emoji of an avocado in your comment. But if somebody has listened that long, I always do it at the end of the video for the true fans. Like if you've listened this long, number one, we really appreciate that you spend some of your like really ridiculously precious time hanging out with us. But it also signifies that you listened, and I'm so much more engaged then. And I always say, if you leave that avocado, or I choose a different emoji every time. Today it's an avocado in honor of guacamole tuna. If you leave that in your comment, I promise I'll read the comment within the first 48 hours of the video coming out. And if you have a question, I promise I will answer the question if you've got the avocado in there.
And I might also.
Oh, you might chime in?
I might read these.
Yeah. I hope they're going to be fascinating. That's why we've sat here for an hour doing this. And
I really could rage about this for so much longer. But it's taking a lot of self-restraint.
I don't even want to rage about it.
It's not raging. It's defending the opposite side of the argument in what I feel very strongly needs to be defended.
Sure. From a place of reality, from the everyday life of an actual musician or musicians. She's the one with the gigs, by the way, not me.
That flopped.
I will say, huh?
That's kind of switched recently.
I've got a lot of gigs. I've got some gigs.
Even now. Before we were not.
Saturday night was a good example of that.
Yeah.
We both had double headers. Saturday night, had to have a babysitter. That was crazy. That hasn't happened in a very long time. I would just like to end with the fact that I don't want to rage. I don't want it to come across as ranty. And the only thing I would like to leave people with is that they ask better questions when they listen, and be a little more critical of what it is you're consuming. You know, like your whole point of like you kind of, if you do look at Instagram, this was a great one. You're sort of like only half there. Remember we were talking about that yesterday?
I know.
And you're like, I wouldn't even have known it. Was it your point? I wouldn't even known it was fake because Instagram is whatever.
I'm not looking at Instagram for music content anymore. I'm just looking at it. And sometimes it still feeds me things that I'm on it so much less than I was. But sometimes it still feeds me music related things. And my brain isn't musically analyzing. Wow, that triad sounds way too in tune for these three singers singing in a kitchen.
Sure.
I'm just looking at that and I'm like, oh, that's a cool arrangement. Like I don't even.
Yeah.
And that is. Yeah.
That's not healthy.
It's not healthy at all.
And that is what those platforms promote.
Yes.
They allow people to get away with so many egregious.
And if you want people to question it, I want people to change it up, maybe.
Yes. Please don't give it the time of day.
Right.
Yeah. we've just spent an hour giving it the time of day, but hopefully from a
that's why I
perspective-
said inherent. Like
Right.
that is the core issue, is that
Right.
we're promoting something that I wish everyone would just leave behind. But
Yeah. Hopefully we're promoting better question asking and more
Yeah.
critical thought, because we do have those haven't been taken away from us. Everyone has the
Right.
ability to do it, just most people choose not to.
Yeah.
Because it's easier.
and just I will never stand for the dumbing down of the masses and accepting.
People don't care.
Yes, I won't accept that, because I know from human history that we are smarter than that
We're
as a
better than that,
species.
yeah.
We're better than that.
Yeah.
We need to be better than that.
Okay.
So
All right.
there's
That's
my
it.
soapbox.
Love you.
Love you too.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.